On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a friend, teammate, and coach, Mr. Phil Thiel. I had the opportunity to meet Phil and learn from Phil when I was living in Atlanta playing with Atlanta Old White. Phil played for the USA Eagles and represented the United States in the 2011 and 2015 Rugby World Cup with over 30 international caps. He was just an incredible rugby player, became a great coach, and it's just been so great to get to know Phil over the years. And I was so honored by him just taking the time to talk with me. And so, hey, let's just jump into it. Today, I'm joined with one of my good friends and teammates and coaches, Mr. Phil Thiel. How you doing today, Phil?
Hey, Sumo, man, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Hey, man, I can't complain. I can't complain. Like I said, let's jump into this. I want to know a little bit more about your journey, your origin story. So give me that comic book issue number one. Who are you and where are you from?
Oh man, the villain origin story. So Phil Thiel from Traverse City, Michigan, originally. So I'll do the Michigan thing. It's right there, up north. You know the north. And started playing rugby. Senior year of high school, played for 1 year. Went to college to play football. Was transferring to go to a different school, and then had a bunch of great guys at the Traverse Bay Blues rugby club had brought me on just to kind of have fun and play for a little bit. And got started in rugby with that. And then, they came up to me one day and they were like, "Hey man, instead of going back and trying to play football again, do you want to go live in, a house that's going to be knocked down in a year next to a rugby pitch and play rugby for a National 3 side in England in Cinderford?" And that's, I went off and did that. So that's kind of how I got my start in rugby.
What kind of experience was that going off overseas to play? You said you've been playing a few years or a little
Mhm.
bit of rugby, but to have that opportunity, what was that like?
It was cool. So I had played the season-ish, maybe a little more than one season when I was back up in Traverse City between going to schools. I was going to school up there, but I played mostly like flanker, center. I was just a 20-year-old guy, you know what I mean, that was still trying to play football. So all I was doing was trying to like work on, football stuff. So trying to be fast, trying to be strong, trying to do all that stuff, right? So they would just give me the ball and I would run playing like Division 3/Division 4 kind of rugby against a bunch of dudes that are like my age now. And I would just go run and score tries. And so I didn't really know what rugby was all about. I mean, they were awesome guys and they knew how to play and everything. They were good players and stuff, but I didn't know kind of the whole scope of rugby. And so when I got to England, they put me at prop because I think I weighed like 260 pounds or so. You know what I mean? And so they said, "Oh yeah, you're a prop." And then I went to the first training and I remember we had to do this little game where we kicked the ball. It was like a 20-meter, like a 20-meter grid, and you kicked the ball to the opposing guy. Then he ran at you, and it was just like a little defensive work, right? And after the third try, they were like, "Phil, just throw the ball down to him. Don't try to kick it anymore," because it was so bad. And then I remember my first scrum too. I got in there and they were just like, "Yeah, you need to stay flat and not hurt yourself by looking like this." I had no idea. I played. I mean, the first game that I was there, I played, and they were like, "Phil, look, we know you don't really know what you're doing that well." But just go run around and like try to tackle people. And so that was where, I just kind of got the love of the game from the guys in Traverse City. My coach was Chuck Benson and the Alliance. I mean, they've been around it's their 20th anniversary this year. So I was on one of the first teams. And it's just people trying to grow rugby in areas where it wasn't really big before. You know what I mean? They've been around since the 70s. And so just having all that backdrop and stuff was awesome, and having them, believe in me that I could go try to do something, bigger. We didn't know what National 3 in England meant. You know what I mean? It's just a bunch of guys that were either coming up or kind of done with their more professional careers. So it was kind of that balance, but it was awesome to be able to do that.
From there, you ended up playing over 30 international games with the U.S.
Yeah.
How did that actually happen?
So when I came back from England, I went to Life, and we didn't have a college team back then. It was just a club team. We didn't put the college team in for a few more years, and so I came back. Scott Lawrence was the head coach. He had called me up. He's also from Michigan. He's now the big head honcho with USA Rugby and everything. But back then, he was working his way up through the coaching ranks. He was at Life, and he had been a great player, and he was an awesome coach. And he just knew that I was coming back from England and that I wanted to go back to school. So he called me up and offered, they offered scholarships, even if it wasn't a collegiate team back then. They were able to offer, scholarships to go to school, and I really wanted to get back and finish. So he called me up, and I jumped in a car that I was, I guess, borrowing, had been donated from Nick Dignan was the guy's name, was in the family, and he was a life guy at the time, and drove a stick shift car for the first time ever from Illinois down to Atlanta. Made some truckers pretty mad, stalling out in front of them, and took the Tennessee Hills in neutral in a stick shift car, and got to life and just started playing. About 2 years of working my way through, trying to kind of get up through the system. Got passed over a few times for the U.S. team, and then it was actually an injury. Unfortunately, great guy Chris Biller got hurt. He was the current hooker for the U.S. Him and a couple other guys were in the mix, and Chris got hurt, and I got called up from a selects tour, so like just under the Eagles. Um, I had been working my way through learning how to throw, doing all that kind of stuff, learning how to play hooker, and was still pretty raw at it. But Chris got hurt, and so they brought me in for the Uruguay World Cup qualifiers in 2000. God, a long time ago, 2009. So just kind of played for the next couple of years to the World Cup, and then took a year and a half off, and then came back through from 2013 through the 2015 World Cup. So kind of a windy journey, but it's what a lot of people we used to go through when it was club stuff, right? Before we had the MLR and those kind of direct pathways and everything.
One of those things with you, I know it's a time off and then you come back in and retirement. I don't know if it's really a reality for you yet.
Hopefully someday. The first time I retired, it was probably not the best decision to retire. I had some injuries and stuff, and I would have loved to see how many caps I could have gotten without retiring and everything. The first and the second time, because I was 30 the second time I retired, and I've probably retired 7 or 8 times since then, as you know. But that's probably more of a selfish kind of thing, just to see how many I could get. I mean, the guys that are at the top of the cap list, Todd and Cam and Lou and Big Mac, Mike McDonald and stuff are legends, of the game and everything. So I would have just loved to see if I could kind of be in the mix with those guys number wise. But they're those guys are the top the top echelon of players and stuff, and I have huge respect for them. So even to be half of what those guys have at this point is it feels pretty great.
So one of the things I love about you working with you and all that is your ability to coach. And you definitely have given me the players coach where you know what you're doing, you've done it at a high level. What made you start coaching? Was that just the natural next progression, or did you have that in mind?
I started to get older was number one, but no, I love coaching. I mean, coaching is especially kind of in like the college age ranks. I mean, I love to coach the men, of course, but the that age rank, I just love to work with people and try to get the best out of them, and learn from players too, and learn from other great coaches. I just really enjoy being able to take what I learned from awesome coaches throughout my career, and guys that are like miles above where I'm at this point as a coach, and just try to take those lessons and apply them to other players and teams, and see how that works out. It's actually more stressful being a coach than a player, to be honest, because you're sitting there and you can't do anything about what's on the field. You just have to hope that the players put in what you installed with them and everything. But the reward is huge too, because you get to see 23 or 30 or more players, the entire team, the entire club. You get to enjoy that victory with them, and know that you had a little hand in all of it, versus having just your hand in being on the field and everything.
One of the things I always look at is if if you were given the exact blueprints of what you needed to do to be successful, everyone would do it. Hey, I need to go
Mhm.
here. I need to move to England. I need to play for this club. I need to move
Yeah.
up. Everyone would do it because you know exactly the exact outcome.
Yeah.
You give me a moment where you made a decision that you had no idea what the alternative was going to be or what the opportunity could lead to that ended up working out well for you.
It would have probably been going to England. I mean, I didn't know, I knew that there was a USA Rugby team. You know what I mean? I knew. I mean, because the World Cup was 2007, the previous one to the one that I was, first in, obviously 2011. And I went to England in 2006. So I knew that the World Cup was coming up. I knew I probably wasn't going to make the team, right? Because I didn't. Nobody knew who I was. I played for awesome club, but Division 3 club up in Northern Michigan, right? Nobody knew who I was. But I saw some of that stuff, and I saw kind of the pathway that a lot of those guys had gone on. A lot of them had gone overseas, and some played professional, some played club. It just depended. And so, because back then it not disorganized, but it was just people came from all over the place, right? That would be that going to England. I had like $200 in my pocket. You know what I mean? The guys, they bought me my plane ticket. They got me set up with a place to live. They got me hooked up with the club and everything, but I had no idea what was going to happen. And then I ended up spending half almost of 2 seasons there and just meeting amazing people. And I got a picture quite a while back. My jersey was up on the clubhouse. You know what I mean? Just as a player that had been an international guy. You know what I mean? They keep in contact and everything. But it would have been that move, just going to England, kind of out of nowhere and playing. It's different now, especially with MLR and collegiate rugby has picked up so much and everything. But yeah, back then it was, if you wanted to play with the Eagles, you either had to be on one of the top clubs in the U.S., usually out west, right? Or you had to just kind of take that crack and go overseas. And that was my crack, was to check out overseas.
Pathways are great. I actually do enjoy the pathways. I love the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they've, I wouldn't say streamlined it, but made it a lot more
Yeah.
understandable, attainable for young players that are developing, working
Yep.
at the MLR, doing the academies, playing for even clubs like Old White that can get you that spotlight, get you that opportunity, even if you maybe haven't made the academy team yet, or you weren't one of those guys from Life, because I feel like half the draft usually is Life guys. It's finding that
Yep.
opportunity elsewhere. But I do really like that they've kind of made it more streamlined, like a lot of professional sports, which what rugby has become in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's been pretty cool to see.
I mean, it's amazing. You see the guys. I mean, I was lucky enough, to spend the last month ish with Rugby ATL, just coming off the bench and doing whatever I could do. You know what I mean? They had some injuries and things like that. And, just getting to see that and see the like the level of professionalism that people put in across the board in the organization. You know what I mean? From the coaches, strength coaches, to players, the staff, management staff, the marketing staff, like everybody, right? Like it's a legit, I mean, it's not football or basketball yet, right? I mean, guys aren't getting paid millions of dollars, but it's a legit professional organization. I mean, it is like it's buttoned up from top to bottom. And I think that they're doing an awesome job, and it's going to really grow that piece. And then, like you were saying, the pathway from college now, right? Because college rugby is legitimate in the US now, right? It used to be, I mean, when we were young, well, you're younger than me, but when we were young, people, Sue says, yes, I'm younger than you. when we were younger, right? Especially when I was young, if you said, oh yeah, I play rugby, da, 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 people be like, oh, I had a buddy that played at insert university name here. Man, those guys loved to party. Those guys were hard partiers. They were tough drinkers, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, like everybody, that's every sport, every athlete, male, female, doesn't matter, right? Likes to go out, you work hard, you play hard, kind of thing, right? But now you look at like Life, for example, out west, so many like Cal, St. Mary's, all those schools, BYU's, up, even in the Northeast, you get like St. Bonaventure. Tui Osborne came from Life to go coach up there and turned a school that liked rugby into like a legitimate rugby program. And guys from Life, and I'm not just trying to tout all the Life people, but even in Michigan, like Adrian College, we get that right for Benny, but Ben Mattealona, who was a fringe USA Rugby guy, got into camps, was in academies, played at Life. I mean, he's up there turning a Division 3 school into like a legitimate rugby school. So you're getting all this kind of stuff now where the pathway is just growing and growing and growing into MLR, and MLR is getting better and better and better. And there's a ton of foreigners in the league, sure, but there has to be, right now. And the American players are getting better and better and better, though. So that's going to really, it's going to, at some point here, it'll push through and it'll really expand American rugby into new heights, kind of thing. And it'll take some time, but it's an amazing pathway, like you were saying.
And it's exciting to see it. It's exciting to see it grow across, as you mentioned. I think kids are now going to college, obviously to learn. It's cool to see them choose rugby as
Yeah,
not after school club or afterthought, or you met
right,
them at a party.
right.
You're actually having guys. I remember a couple years so I started college in 2010, ended in 2017. So 7 years of college, not too bad. Uh, didn't think I could stay much longer. I'm glad Eau Claire didn't have a PhD program because I probably would have done that. But to see the first couple generations of kids, students coming in and playing in high school, playing already. So it wasn't just finding a whole bunch of new faces. It was actually having some real athletes come and join the team, not just athletes from that had been cut from the football team or something like that.
Right.
Actually, guys that wanted to came there to play rugby or wanted to play rugby.
Yeah, the growth has been huge. And like the thing that you just said is the people that want to play rugby versus kind of like defaulted to rugby. You know what I mean? The level of athlete that you see now coming in to play college rugby is, I mean, they're a stud, you know, male team, female team, they're stud athletes coming in. And nothing against, you know, I'm almost talking bad about myself. You know what I mean? Like guys that were that didn't make it. You know what I mean in other sports, but you know they're legitimate. I mean, there's some stud athletes running around right now that are, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old and even younger that have decided they want to play rugby going through, which is really cool.
What have you been up to? You know, stepping into the unknown, which is the title of the podcast. Kind of what's next for Mr. Thiel?
So I work for a software company, so I'm kind of a nerd, but I'm, you know, trying to get back into coaching. I, you know, stopped last year with, you know, some changing, you know, priorities and stuff, family wise and everything. So I had stopped coaching. I was coaching at Life. I was doing the forwards coaching and also coaching, you know, the guys at Old White, and I miss it really bad. So my stepping back into the unknown, besides, like I said, randomly playing for a month or so at Rugby ATL, which was pretty cool. You know, I was pretty happy that they called me, and Blake Bradford is, you know, one of the head coaches. Is that they have a 2 head coach system, and I played with Blake. You know what I mean? So to get my first ever MLR cap, I think I was probably the second oldest ever MLR cap. You know, first cap. Other than that, which was a lot of fun, and that was really unknown what was going to happen there. And definitely be getting back into coaching and trying to take the years of great coaching that I was able to experience, and then again applying them to, depending on the age group, probably hopefully the college age ranks, but I'd love to work with, you know, the club teams and everything as well, and even maybe younger, you know, younger rugby athletes, to try to help them out too, and just build, you know, keep building what's already making a huge amount of momentum right now, which is growing the youth and collegiate game up to where, you know, we're spitting out rugby players that could go play overseas and insert into a, you know, top club program if they needed to, or continue to grow, you know, the MLR. But that'll be mine. The unknown is back into coaching, dipping my toes back in.
This was an honor to earn it with you. You know,
Yeah, man.
that was a quite a man and quite an experience in 2019. Just from every playoff game to, you know, the championship itself. Of course, it didn't go the exact way we wanted it to end, but it was
Yeah.
still such a, you know, a great journey and a great experience, man. So just want to thank you for letting me be part of that.
Well, hey, Sumo man, we miss you down here. You know what I mean? People actually talk about it when we're not even talking to you. That we miss you.
Hey,
You
man,
know what I mean?
I'll
Whether
be
it's,
down soon, man.
yeah, whether it's on the field, you know what I mean, getting ready for a game, whatever it is, me yelling at you to put your boots on when you weren't actually rostered, to, you know, being just out with the, you know, with the boys and stuff like that and everything. We definitely miss you down here, man. You're a huge part of the club, and a huge part of rugby culture too. And I think what you're doing, you know, with the podcast and with, you know, you know, the historical everything, whether it's from rugby to the other sports that you work with, in the path that you're taking is so cool, man. And being able to live your dream and continuously step into your, you know, into your unknown, right? But then, you know, make it known and make it something really cool. I see you on, you know, see on Facebook, you know, interviewing big studs. Like, I feel really cool just being on your show. You know what I mean? I'll probably get followed by like LeBron James or something will be after me, and everybody will forget about this one, knowing you. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm really, really proud of you to see what you're working and doing and everything, man. It's awesome to see.
Phil, I appreciate it, man. So if people are looking to try to find you, where can they find you on social media? Do you exist on social
I
media?
do exist. Yep, I do exist. It's mostly pictures of my kids and I. We're not the most exciting social media, but on Instagram at Phil Thiel 41, so PhilThiel 41. That's pretty much it. Or on Facebook or whatever. I'm still on there every once in a while, trying to avoid, you know, political arguments and things like that on Facebook. But yeah, Instagram. I'm on Instagram if anybody ever wants to get a hold of me, talk about rugby. if they're trying to make their way through or anything, if they have any questions for the path that I went through, or if they just want to, connect and get to know a fellow rugby player, that'd be the best way to do it.
Well, Phil, thank you so much for taking time, man. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, bro, definitely. I'll look forward to it.